Mr. B and locked in.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. I hope you had a fantastic 4th of July. I hope you weren't feared into not celebrating your country's birth, your country's 244th birthday. I hope you celebrated without fear. I know there are people out there trying to instill fear everywhere. They want you to fear your country. They want you to fear your history. They want you to fear the coronavirus, Wuhan virus, whatever they're calling it today. But I hope you had a good time. I'm going to jump into something right here, but we've got a packed show today. So you are going to want to pull in close to your speakers, to your devices, however you're listening to this show, however you are listening to me today, you're going to want to listen very intently. And by the way, you are tuned into America's Web Radio. This is On Point with Victor. I am Victor Armendariz. And we're jam-packed, folks. I want to listen. I have a guest for those of you who are watching. And yes, you are on camera. For those of you watching, to my left is Ruth the Truth Stringer. That's my fault, folks. Ruth the Truth Stringer. She's running in a special election for Dekalb County Sheriff. Yes. And I'm going to bring her on here shortly, and you're going to want to hear what she has to say. Because despite what some of you guys think, I can sit hand in hand with a Democrat. But you're a special kind of Democrat, and we're going to have a good conversation. So stay tuned, everyone. Please, you're going to want to hear what Ruth has to say, because Ruth's going to bring some light to some things that we've here on America's Web Radio have tried to bring light to, which is the big problems with the Dekalb County, big problems with the South Dekalb County, and the whole history of the sheriff's office. Yeah. Because we here are huge supporters of Harold Dennis, who is a friend of yours. Friend of mine. And Harold and I have sat here and tried to bring light to a lot of the problems with the sheriff's office. And I think it's going to be neat to hear from the perspective of somebody who's been a Democrat probably for a long time. Yep. And so we'll hear your perspective, so it'll be nice to hear that. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to get into that. I also want to, just right off the bat, I've got to get into this because I'm hearing so much fear-mongering going on about the Wuhan virus, the coronavirus, the COVID-19. So I want to give you a few facts, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to get into the virus. I'm not going to get into mask wearing or not. Or look, wear it if you want to. If you're a business owner, it is your right. If you have a private business and you don't want somebody to come in without a mask, then you tell them, hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to serve you. There's nothing wrong with that. I support that. I support freedom and liberty in this country, and I support people making their own decisions. But I do want to tell you just a little bit here, some big facts that you're not hearing in the mainstream media, because they're trying to use fear, because with fear comes control. And we have a political establishment right now that's really got a taste of some unbelievable power in these last few months, and they don't want to let go of it. So let me give you some, as you hear the reports of the cases going up, the Wuhan cases, the number of people that are getting the disease or the virus, what they're not telling you, and take note, they're not telling you the death rate. Well, a few months ago, all they wanted to report was the death rate. And now they don't want to report the death rate. And common sense will tell you to ask yourself why. And the reason is the death rate is falling. The cases are going up, yes, because we are testing more than any country in the world, and we're testing. We got testing centers everywhere, and when you test, you're going to find people who've had the disease already, the virus already, who've gotten over the virus, you're going to find all kinds of things, but those numbers are being counted as cases, as well they should be, because we need to know. It's great to know who had it, because if you had it and got over it, you can go donate plasma blood. And please listen to me. There are people who are having trouble with the virus. So if you've had it and you've gotten over it, after 14 days, go donate blood to the Red Cross, because your plasma can be used to help elderly people who are having struggles with the virus, or other people with immune deficiencies who might be having a struggle. So do that. Just, that's a good thing to do. That's not about a D or an R. That's just about helping your fellow citizen. But the death rate's going down, and you're not hearing that. So as the cases go up from people being tested, the big number that should matter to you are the deaths, and that's going down. And let me tell you another number. You're hearing hospitalizations are going up. All you're hearing from the media, and this again is why the media drives me nuts when they do a disservice. Because you're hearing the media go around telling you that hospitals are up, hospitalizations, we might get overrun in hospitals. Well, what they're not telling you is only 15% of the hospitalizations that have been going on in Texas and across the country over these past month or so, only 15% are COVID-19 patients. That means 85% of the other hospitalizations are not COVID-19. They're not telling you that, folks. They're not telling you because they want you to be fearful of the disease that's actually on the decline, or the virus is on the decline. So you've got 15%. So your question probably is, well, gosh, Victor, if it's only 15%, then what are the other hospitalizations? Well, folks, you got to understand, we had hospitals shut down and open only to COVID patients for a few months. Now hospitals are open. Now people who should have been getting cancer screenings are getting cancer screenings. People who've had other issues are going now to the doctor when they haven't been going. They're going to the hospitals. They're going to the ERs. That is driving up hospitalizations. So again, only 15% of this hospitalizations over the last few weeks have been COVID-19. So remember that. And folks, the other number to know is who's getting the virus, who's testing positive. Well, right now the median age has dropped down to, I believe, the age of 35. So younger people are getting it. And the only way we're going to reach herd immunity is for younger people to get it. Now, the fact that the elderly population, we're not seeing a surge with them, that's a good thing. And the elderly population is the one that we still need to care for. They still need to be very careful on where they go and what kind of groups they're being a part of, and the mask wearing and all that. Definitely got to have to look out for the elderly population. So, but right now, the elderly population is not seeing a big spike in cases. It's the younger population, and that's not a bad thing, believe it or not. If you want to check anything that I'm telling you, folks, because I always tell you, you can look this up for yourself. You don't have to take it from me. And I don't want you to just take it from me. I want you to do your research. You are a better, well-informed voter and just a well-informed, better person if you do some research yourself. Whether you're hearing CNN or Fox or MSNBC, no matter who it is that's telling you some facts or their opinion, go do some research. Validate the opinion. That way you can develop a better narrative for yourself and better informed. And you'll be just an informed person all the way around. But go look up a guy named Dr. Atlas. Dr. Atlas has been doing study after study after study on this Wuhan virus, COVID-19. He's been doing this study down in, especially in Texas. Go look him up. You're going to see a lot of his testing results. That's Dr. Atlas. Take a look, take some time, look him up, and you'll see where I'm getting some of my information from. Because I'm telling you real facts and real science and real data. I'm not giving you modeled data. I'm giving you stuff that's on the ground. A doctor who's on the ground, who sees patients every day, who's prescribing things to help patients with COVID-19. So take a look at him. It's pretty interesting. And there's a lot of information out there, folks. So look, we're Americans. We've been through lots and lots of issues and tribulations and some things even bigger than this. And we always come through it, but we'll come through it better when we stand together. We're always going to overcome any adversary when we stand as Americans. We don't need to stand as this group over here or this group or that group. We need to stand as Americans, because when we do, there is no adversary that is greater than the power of the citizen of the United States when we stand together, because we are Americans. And just ask any Marine or ask any Army veteran, which that's, when we stand together, we're our strongest. So I just wanted to say that. So I want to move on a little bit. I we lost a look. Some of you out there know that I pretend to be a musician. So I played in several bands, and I love music. Music is such an inspiration to me, and my musical taste. Ruth, maybe we'll talk about musical taste too if we get a chance, just to get out of the mundane of politics. But my musical taste will go from Tchaikovsky to Iron Maiden.
Oh, wow.
So I'm all over the board. I love music. I love music. It's a passion. Well, we lost a great musician by the name of Charlie Daniels this past weekend. Charlie Daniels was 83, I think. 83, 85, 83, David? 83. And this guy was something else, folks. If you like the fiddle or the violin, well, you haven't seen a guy play it if you haven't seen Charlie Daniels. So do yourself a favor and go to YouTube or Google or DuckDuckGo a search on Charlie Daniels and just watch some of his musicianship. Just the way that he can play a fiddle. It's absolutely amazing what he did with that instrument. And that's not the only instrument. He was a guitar player also. And a songwriter, and he's got some great songs, one of which I'm sure everybody knows is The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And no, he was not from Georgia, Charlie Daniels. He was actually from North Carolina. But he did spend a lot of time in Georgia, and that is probably his most famous song is The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And if you're not familiar with it, well, by golly, then you need to go get caught up and go listen to some Charlie Daniels. Because he was and Charlie Daniels, he was a good old country boy. He spent a lot of time in Nashville and played. He was actually a studio musician. He played with Bob Dylan. He played with the Beatles. I think Ringo Starr. He wrote a song that Elvis produced and sang. Charlie Daniels his career isn't just Devil Went Down to Georgia. he had a lot. He was an amazing talented man, and he will be missed. So rest in peace, Mr. Charlie Daniels. So one of the other things I wanted to get to today, folks, and I'm going to try to fit this in before we go to break, because when we come back from break, I want to get into a discussion with Ruth the Truth Stringer. So, but I wanted to ask the question: why do so many in the establishment Washington? Why do so many seem to hate America so much? And I want you to ask yourself this question. Maybe this will be a homework assignment. Maybe we'll do this week, and we'll come back and circle back to it next week. But why do so many let's call it the elected class. I like to refer to them as the elitist class. But your elected official who's supposed to serve we the people, why do so many of them seem to hate America? And then if you are supporting some of these, and I'm talking about the elected officials who are out there calling Mount Rushmore a white supremacy area. They got mad at President Trump for giving a speech on 4th of July in front of an amazing piece of art. I'm talking about the people out there who are trying to put fear out there and scare you and convince you that America is such a bad place. If you believe that, then you need to really ask yourself, why do you believe that? I want you to really do some reflection on that, because there are some elected officials right now, and we've got an election coming up in November, and some of them you need to look at and go, wow, do I need to vote for this person who seems to hate America? Because it's a true question. It's a true question. And I'm not saying just Democrats or Republicans. I'm just talking about the elected class in Washington. There's a few of them. All right, we're going to go to a break here. And when we come back, we're going to get into some interesting conversations. So you hold tight, guys. We will be right back. This is going to be a short break. This is On Point with Victor, America's Web Radio.
Go online and check out the TornadoBodyDryer.com.
So you don't really...
I love mine and the warm heat air massage it gives me after my shower. The Tornado Body Dryer is super. You'll love it. And you'll love having one in your shower.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Don't be that person.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy
or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. One other thing, I just had a listener point this out, and let me again thank all you listeners out there. You guys are what makes this show go on and on. It's just awesome for you guys to interact with me. And I had a great listener just say that Charlie Daniels was also an awesome patriot, and yes, he was. Charlie Daniels loved this country. You could hear it in his music. You could hear it whenever he was interviewed. He did not shy away at all from his love for this country. So thanks again to that listener for pointing that out. And thanks again for all you listeners and all you new listeners who are just tuning in. Well, hold on and strap yourself onto a chair because, we here with On Point with Victor move pretty quick. And sometimes we get some very fantastic guests. And look, Ruth, and look, everyone, I just want to go ahead and introduce my guest today is Ruth the Truth Stringer.
That's right.
And you are running for Dekalb County Sheriff.
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's excellent, because DeKalb County needs some help.
Yes, they do.
But I want to get into a little bit of your background first. Okay. So you're a Marine.
Yes, I am a United States Marine. That's where I started. I went to the Marine Corps from high school.
Wow.
To assist with paying for college because I had brothers in front of me and sisters behind me, and my parents, I know they would struggle to do it, but I could find a better way. So I joined the United States Marine Corps. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I came out, I went to college. I joined the sheriff's office, and I retired from there May of last year. I did 30 years at the sheriff's office.
You look way too young to sit here and tell me you retired from the sheriff's office.
I did. I actually served as the interim sheriff when Jeff Mann was suspended for his for that infraction he had. So I have a career in law enforcement, as I said, and I have a disciplined career because the Marine Corps starts you off that way. It's kind of a no-nonsense journey.
Right.
So, yes.
I love it. I have two nephews that are National Guardsmen.
Okay.
And a third nephew that's about to be on his way.
Okay.
And I love it. I can't speak highly enough of the military.
Yes.
And the fact that you are a Marine, and you will never hear me say X.
No,
any
don't.
kind of military, and
Marines, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes. And for
absolutely.
Those of you out there who are listening who may not be familiar with military code or military way, the reason you will never hear me refer to ex-military or ex-Marine especially, or ex-Army, is because once a Marine, always a Marine. So
yes.
You are a former Marine, or you're always a Marine. You are always a Marine, and that's just the way it is. And so I like to make sure my listeners understand what's going on, because every now and then I'll get messages going, why do you refer it that way? Why do you say that? Is why. So but yeah, so you've got this 30 plus years in law enforcement. Let me ask you this. So I grew up in DeKalb. So I was very fortunate, just so you'll know a little bit about me, because you and I don't know each other that well.
No, we don't.
In fact, we just met. But like I told Ruth, and everyone out there can know this, any friend of Harold Dennis is a friend of mine. Absolutely. He's you'll probably agree, just an outstanding guy.
He is.
Really
Great
is.
guy.
So Harold, if you're listening, stop blushing. I want to ask. So I just to give you a little background on me. So my father came here from Mexico. He came on a student visa. Couldn't speak a word of English.
Okay.
Came here, learned the language, worked as a busboy, as a waiter, cleaned hospital beds. Met my mom, went back to Mexico. My mother freaked out, came back here. And long story short, that's how I became. And so when I was born and mostly raised, was here in Dekalb County.
Okay.
Which is where you're running for sheriff. So I've seen a lot. I went to kindergarten, elementary school, high school, all in DeKalb County. And now I spent part of the year in Mexico, which I'm very fortunate. I was able to see 2 different cultures growing up, which was fascinating, and learn 2 languages growing up, which I recommend for everyone. But I spent the majority of my time in schooling here in DeKalb County. So you you did 30 years, so clearly were you born in DeKalb? Are you?
No, I was not. Actually, I was born in New Jersey.
New Jersey?
So, yeah, I'm a Jersey girl.
Boy, we could have some stories there.
Yes.
What part of Jersey?
I was Trenton, actually.
Trenton, okay. I used to date a girl from Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Okay, small town,
And she was I learned a whole new dialect. You're gonna get the bull. Let's go get the bull and let's go play.
Yeah, the big hair.
Yeah. Well, neat. So when did you make it down to Atlanta?
Well, I came to Atlanta after I left the military. I had an uncle here actually he was ill, and he asked me and my husband if we would come down and help him out, and we did. And once I got here, I really liked Atlanta. Well,
it's
actually,
a great place.
DeKalb County was where I ended up, and I really liked DeKalb County.
So what gave you that? Here I am in DeKalb County, a Jersey girl. I'm going to get into law enforcement.
Well, I actually liked the discipline of the Marine Corps. I really liked
Do you have
the
kids?
regiment. Yes, I have.
How disciplined are they?
They're very disciplined. My oldest son is a medical physicist. He's about to get his doctorate.
Oh,
he's a
good
professor.
for
He was
him.
the chief of the VA physics department up in Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan. But now he's teaching over at UC. So my daughter's a biologist. My youngest daughter, she's going on to be a PA, physician's assistant.
Wow.
And my other daughter, she's in law enforcement. So my kids are my other son is with computers.
You are quite the mother.
Yeah, they're very disciplined. They're very good kids.
You are an example that needs to be in front of a lot of other parents and kids.
Well, me and my husband, we've been married for 30 years now.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, 30 years. So
wow.
Yeah.
You don't hear that enough.
No, you
well,
don't.
That's great. Well, so you the Marine Corps gave you the discipline, and that just made you think, okay, I'm going to get into law enforcement.
Right.
So that was the step. Great.
Right.
So then you went to were you in DeKalb County Police Force, or did you go straight to the sheriff?
Straight to the sheriff's office. I actually tested for both, and whoever called me first, I knew that's where I was going to go.
That's where you're going to go. Wow.
Yeah, and when I took my oral exam for the sheriff's office, and I told them that I'm going over to PD, I had an appointment scheduled with them. They hired me that day on the spot.
Wow.
So, told me to go take my physical. So it all started from there.
Wow,
June
that's great.
1990.
That is excellent. Okay. So, well, I don't want to leave your husband out. What does your husband do?
My husband's a police officer. He was also a Marine. I met him in the Marine Corps.
What a good place to meet. That's why you've been together for 30-something years.
Well, 35 years. I said 30, he'll kill me. But, it's been so long, it's like, who's counting anymore?
Right.
Yes. But he's a police officer for DeKalb County. He retired from actually the DeKalb County Police Department. Now he works at one of the universities or colleges as a police officer. Yeah. He loves it, so he's happy, I'm happy.
Well, excellent. That's awesome. Okay, so when we fast forward to where I don't need to get into a whole lot of craziness on the prior DeKalb County sheriffs and what a mess DeKalb has been.
Right.
But and maybe we'll touch a little bit on some of that. But when I don't even want to say his name, but when that sheriff did the crazy thing that he did and he got removed, you came in as interim. Yes. I can speak, I promise. Interim sheriff.
Right.
How was that? Just give me an overview of coming in to the mess that he, I'm sure, left.
Well, remember, I only served as the interim for 40 days.
Okay.
So he came back after 40 days. He was suspended. the good thing about me doing that, it prompted me to run for sheriff. I probably would not be here if I had not witnessed what I witnessed. The taxpayers in DeKalb have to realize there's a lot of waste in their money, their funds,
Amen
and
to that.
I keep telling, and I'm shouting it as loud as I can, that you should not be paying a former sheriff to be a consultant. He should not be driving a Bentley, on your backs. He should not be vacationing in the south of France, the South Seas, on your back.
On your dollar.
All of this. I think that, and I pray that some elected official, some legislator will put something in place that says once you leave public office, you cannot get any contracts, work with any contractor or anything for at least 10 to 15 years after you leave, because there's just too much room for corruption. They set things up before they leave office, and then the taxpayers are continually paying for them and their families to become millionaires.
Yeah.
So what I saw there when I walked into what the former sheriff man, what he left. Now he's a nice guy, so I have nothing bad to say about him at all. Right. I will not. But I did not like the waste of funding, the funds, the money. It's the money that got me. If you spend the taxpayers' money right, if you're good to the citizens, the people who employ you, then you're okay with me. But when I see what I saw, it's just.
Well, I'm glad that you're speaking out about that, because I don't think we hear enough, and not to get too hard on politics, because I don't like identity politics, but I don't think we hear enough Democrats that speak out against wasteful spending. And for you to speak out against, I think, is great. And but imagine, we're talking about the sheriff's office.
Right.
Imagine the congressional offices and the from the local level in DeKalb County all the way up to District 4, which represents a huge chunk of DeKalb County, of the wastefulness that goes on. And you and I spoke a little off air about how so many citizens in DeKalb County, and I'm using DeKalb County as an example because you're running for the sheriff, but this goes on in many cities across the country. But we'll focus in on DeKalb because that's what you and I both know the best. The amount of money that's wasted, and the amount of votes that don't count, so to speak. And when I mean that is when the citizenry of a city or a county, I should say a county like DeKalb, will continually to blindly give their vote, whether it's to the sheriff or to the congressman or to the local, down to the local city government, when they will blindly give their vote because they are a certain letter, then your vote's not meaning anything, because those people aren't going to put your interests first.
Right.
They're just not. And I want you to hold on to a thought, because we got to go to the next break. As soon as we get back from this break, we'll pick it up from there. So, folks, don't go anywhere. This is going to get even more exciting. You're listening to America's Web Radio, On Point with Victor. We will be right back.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
My name is Kyle Hayes, a motorsports student at Alfred State College. Every year, Alfred State students compete in the Great Race, which is a cross-country time endurance rally for vintage vehicles. As you can imagine, it's pretty costly. I'm asking for your help. Your donation can make it possible for these students to live their passion and promote the vintage automobile industry. Please visit our site at give.alfredstate.edu and search Great Race to learn more and help us reach our goal. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is On Point with Victor. I am Victor Armendariz. I bet you can roll your R's, can't you?
I don't think so. Not
I
like
won't
that.
get you to try. So we had a listener pop in and say he's Army, and he said he really likes what we were talking about earlier, because he says, you as an Army or Marine or veteran, you take an oath to the Constitution, and that oath doesn't go away until you cease to intake oxygen.
Yes.
And I think that's a good way he put it there. He put it, and I think David would agree. So David is an Army veteran.
Okay.
Army veteran. But yeah, we got military everywhere over here. We love our military. We really do. So before we went to that break, we were talking about how if people would realize, and this isn't just DeKalb, this is everywhere, but we're talking about DeKalb now, but if people really, really wanted to see how valuable their vote is, then they would throw out some of the same, and I'm talking about corrupt politicians.
Yes.
I'm talking about we know there's a corrupt sheriff, or we know, and I'm, look, a lot of these people you could probably sit with and have a great dinner with and have a beer with, but that doesn't mean they're spending your money right.
Right.
And what we should be concerned is, and you mentioned this, is when we give them the grace of serving us, because that's what politicians are. They serve at our will, and we the people, we vote and put them there. And when they waste money, and when they don't put our interests first, or they don't put the people's, the county's interests first, then they need to go. And what's always puzzled me about DeKalb is so many people will line up to vote for the same person because of a letter, instead of saying, you know what, we need to change this out. We need to go a different direction, and let's let them know our vote is going to count. And the biggest message that could ever be sent, for whether it be DeKalb Sheriff or the congressman that's in District 4, is to change it up. So instead of putting Sheriff's man, whoever he picked, to whoever he would want, and the rest, Tillman, the rest of them who want certain people to be there, they should put somebody like you there. They should step out of their box and comfort zone and put Ruth the Truth there. Put somebody like Harold Dennis there.
Yes.
Because you guys, I know, and just the fact that your middle name now is the Truth. We know we're going to get better from you.
Yes.
You're going to put the people first. So maybe talk a little bit about some of the corruption that you saw, and why would a Sheriff Ruth be different?
Well, as I said, my biggest problem was the way the taxpayer dollar was handled. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much waste there is. I like to say that the budget just went up to $94 million, which is an enigma to me, because you have half the inmates that you have. I think it holds 3,000 inmates. You're right at half that. You don't have the staffing that you don't have full staff. You're like maybe 200 to 300 officers short. So why does your budget go up to $94 million? That's not including capital improvement costs and things like that. So you can see that's huge. The problem I have with the sheriff's office budget is they can create line items and submit them to the commissioners for their budget. Once they get the $94 million, they spend it as they will. And then there's no oversight.
There's no accountability.
Nobody comes back to check to make sure they spend it the way they were supposed to spend it. I mean, I remember when we took a trip to the North Georgia mountains, the command staff, for 3 days, and I thought, what a colossal waste of taxpayers' money, because it wasn't a 1-star hotel, I promise you. It was 4-star, it was meal service, it was everything. And that's how they do things over there. I've seen so much waste, it's ridiculous. and no, the taxpayers, they don't go in, they say nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's in a vacuum. Nobody says anything. I watch year after year as commanders are given $60,000 and $70,000 vehicles, top of the lines, loaded out to drive from work to home. Why? Why do they need that?
Right.
Now, if you were outfitting cars for the officers on the road who actually have to, I'm okay with that. But when I see, staff members, command staff, because you're not, even if you respond, you're not in the fray of it. The officers are. So when I see them getting these big luxury vehicles, and they are luxury vehicles.
Oh, I've seen some of them.
Yes, to just drive around in and just, free gas. It's a taxpayer's burden, and somebody needs to go in there and straighten that out and separate, the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. It needs to be separated. There's a lot of waste. My biggest concern right now with the sheriff's office, 2 of them I have that's coming up, and I hope somebody can do something about this. The first thing is the commissary. The money from the commissary, I could tell you the history of why it's this way, but it's too long. So the commissary should be managed by the sheriff's office, and the profits from that should go back into the general fund to support the inmate mattresses, their uniforms. The taxpayers don't have to pay for that because essentially it could be self-supporting. But instead, they have a private company that came in when legislation came in, when the law passed saying the sheriff could no longer get the profit from the commissary. That's how that private company ended up being their friend. And back then, and I was there to witness the transition, so I'm telling you what I know. So now you have people who are now looking at, including a former sheriff who wants to own the commissary.
Because he's a consultant.
Yes, he's a consultant, but he wants to own the commissary and get that profit. That people don't understand. That's millions of dollars. They buy everything in there. There's all kinds of food, shoes, clothes, everything through that commissary. It's a small city. I have a problem with that. And the citizens need to be aware that there's a new jail will be built. It will be built. You have a lot of elected officials that are looking at benefiting from that new jail being built. The citizens need to demand that no elected official can benefit from the building of that new jail, period. It doesn't matter if they are there now, 5 years from now, 10 years ago, they cannot benefit from the building of that jail, because that is why the jail we have now is in such shoddy condition, because people who benefited should not have benefited. The citizens need to do something. Your tax dollars are going to waste. And my alarm call is, I tell people, Governor Kemp has already sounded the alarm as far as I'm concerned. When he told his departments, you're going to have to cut your budget. That was a warning bell for everybody. Starts from the top down. Every county official, elected official, the top man needs to be telling his departments, cut your budget. Cut your budget, because with this coronavirus and the scientists in Washington saying this is going to be one of the darkest winters in modern history, people are not going to have the money to keep up with their taxes, and some people are going to lose their homes. Businesses are not going to have the profits that they used to have. So, I just feel like a simple thing to me, like that sheriff's office and a $94 million budget, which in my mind could probably be decreased by $10 million, but when it's over, there are going to be a few millionaires made off the taxpayers' back. People go to work every day and they vote for these people. Oh, I voted for such and such, but you voting against your own best interest. All because you want to be part of a club.
I love that you phrase it that way, because I talk about here all the time about the club, the elitist club, and too many voters get suckered in by these type of corrupt politicians.
Absolutely.
And you're right. They're like, oh, well, look what I did. Well, no. Or, okay, let's really look what you did. You're out here working yourself to the bone, or you're trying to figure out which program can help you, but you're willingly putting people in who are taking money that could be helping you and letting them pad their wallets with it. I love that you're calling for some type of legislation, and I will stand with you any day.
Thank you.
Any day.
Thank you.
But I definitely will stand with you and call for legislation to stop the the ability for somebody like Sheriff Mann to be a consultant.
Not Sheriff Mann.
I'm sorry, not Sheriff Mann.
Brown.
Brown. I'm sorry, Brown. But to be a consultant. And,
right.
and to set things up before they leave. And it's not just a sheriff. Politicians do this every day.
Right.
Politicians will get in and they'll work to create avenues so that they can have a stream of income off the taxpayer for the rest of their life. They want a stream of income from the taxpayer in perpetuity.
Right.
And that's why some of these people go into politics, and it's for the wrong reason. And the only way to stop that is for we, the citizen, to say, you know what, no more.
Enough's enough.
No more. We're not going to vote for that anymore. We're going to put somebody like Ruth the Truth in. And DeKalb County has nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Right.
To break the mold that has been the last few sheriffs and put somebody like you in.
Right.
And this is the message that I hope we can get to DeKalb.
Right. I hope
because
so
you're
too.
right. You're 100% right. There's so much waste. And it drives me crazy when, if you read a lot of the historical documents of the founding of our country, whether it be the founding, any of the founding fathers, but you look at a lot of the patriots back then, and a lot of the writings, whether it's the Federalist Papers or just personal writings, you'll find a theme, and that theme was for a free republic to work, for a people to be self-governed, which is what we are. We're a republic. For that to happen, you've got to have common folks go and serve. That means common folks get elected, go serve, and go home. And then the next one goes up and serves, and they go home. And if you are of meager earnings and you go to serve, you shouldn't become a millionaire off the backs of the taxpayer. And how many politicians do we have today that started out with very little, and as soon as they got into public office, by the time they were done, not only were they extremely rich, their kids were, their on down the
ridiculous.
line.
Yes.
And that's the kind of thing that I'm so happy to hear you speak out about, because you may be a Democrat and I may be a Libertarian or a Republican or whoever else around this table may call themselves that, or whatever they call themselves. This isn't an issue that should be a D or an R or an L or an I. Right. It's about people.
Right.
And if we continue to allow voters to be taken advantage of, and if voters allow themselves, a lot of this has to be, I speak a lot about self-responsibility. And I think we've gotten away from it, and we're pumping out too many kids from high school to college that they just don't learn self-responsibility.
Right.
And if you can't take care of yourself, how can you help a neighbor?
Right.
And if you can't help that neighbor, how can we help a community? So there's so many politicians love to talk about the community, and we got to help and do it for the community. Well, if we can't help ourselves, we can't help our neighbor.
That's right.
And this is where I think your message is, from what I've heard so far, Ruth, is outstanding. And so how can we get more and more people in DeKalb to understand this message?
It's tough because people, to me, what I'm really realizing, it's almost like a cult-like fascination with certain people. They really have a cult-like following. And what I say that is, you remember when Jim Jones had everybody to drink the Kool-Aid? You knew you were going to die, but you drank the Kool-Aid anyway.
But you drank it anyway.
And so I watch in fascination as people continually, and they'll say to me, when they talk to me off record, I really don't like this guy, but, they feel like he's some kind of power monger or something. So I don't know how to break the trance that DeKalb County is in. I love DeKalb County. I really do. I think it's a great place. I love going to Stone Mountain to work out.
Me too.
I like the city of Decatur, what it's become. I don't know if you've been there. It's great.
Absolutely.
I think Avondale Estates has that rustic charm. It's just beautiful.
Avondale.
Yes, that lake.
Ruth, so this show, On Point with Victor, is heard from California to New York to Jersey.
Oh, wow.
To Florida. We're a national show. So for those of you out there who are listening to, so you guys know that my show originates in Georgia. We're in Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Georgia, to be exact, very close to Atlanta. So when you hear Ruth and I talk, and thank you for letting us get a little bit into Georgia, but when you come to, and a lot of people are coming to visit Georgia. I mean, Georgia, I got to tell you, Ruth, when I went to the tag office, when the tag office reopened a few weeks ago, I've been waiting because I had a truck that I had to get a tag for. And so I went, and everyone had to stand outside because they weren't allowing people to come inside yet or anything like that. So we all had to gather outside, and then they called your number, and you got to go in and get your tag. Right. Well, while I was outside, we had a parking security guard who was helping people park and directing traffic, and I stood with her and was just chatting with her. And I saw plate after plate from New York, New Jersey, and Illinois. Those are the top 3. Mm-hmm. So I know we're getting visitors here to Georgia. Yep. So I wanna tell people, when you hear us talk a little bit about Avondale Estates, come to Georgia and see what we're talking about, because Avondale Estates, so historic. Yes. Decatur, beautiful. So historic. Yes. Stone Mountain, amazing place. Yes. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the amazing places. We'll be right back. This is America's Web Radio.
Quick Steaks, that's Q-U-I-K Steaks, are not just for surveyors. They are great for family and community gardens. Go online to www.quicksteak.com or contact your local land surveying supply dealer and get you a box of Quick Steaks. You'll love them every year when you plant your garden. Again, that's Quick Steaks, Q-U-I-K Steaks, the truly preferred way to stake and identify what's in your garden now.
If your health insurance premium is more than your mortgage, Ellen Deal with Ideal Solutions is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, individual, family, or baby boomer, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com and I'll respond with 3 easy questions to help you determine if you can get away from Obamacare. As a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, I'm here to help with all your insurance needs. Email Ellen Deal at MAGA45CAG@gmail.com.
This is Dr. Susan Blank, host of Detailing Addiction and medical director of the Atlanta Healing Center. Please join me on Tuesday afternoons at 4 p.m. This is Dr. Susan Blank, host of Detailing Addiction on America's Web Radio. Please join us at 4 p.m. on Tuesday afternoons.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a short break. You know, we like to get some short breaks out of the way. So let's just talk a little bit about, for those out there who may not be familiar with Georgia, but they may be planning to come here. The reason why you and I are so impassioned when we talk about Georgia. And look, Georgia's been on the map lately, not in a good light all the time, but Georgia's a fantastic place.
Yes, it is.
So with those listeners out there, we do get emotional and passionate when we talk about Georgia, because Georgia has a fantastic history. We have places like you mentioned, Avondale Estates. Now, Avondale Estates, you talk about a place that has really turned around.
Yes.
And they have that historic roots, and now they're really starting to come around, and it is a destination now.
Yes.
And that is a prime example of what, right in the middle of DeKalb, can become a destination for people to visit, for people to want to live.
Yes.
Before, that might have been an area where people were, oh no, I'm going to get shot if I drive down a Memorial Drive going to. But you know what? That area has, what a turnaround.
Yes.
And Decatur. You meant
Decatur. Oh, they've done a fantastic job.
They absolutely have. There's not a eatery around Decatur that you wouldn't want to stop at if you drive through.
Yes, and you can walk everywhere. The high school is fantastic. Great ratings. It has everything.
Fernbank.
Yes, the Science Center.
I mean, that's... Yes, folks, that's here in Georgia, and that's here in Decatur. And we have some great memorials. We have the Veterans Hall of Fame. We've got the Healing Wall. There's just tremendous. So every now and then, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's fun to deviate and talk about the good. There's so much good here.
Yes,
there is. You mentioned you work out at Stone Mountain.
Yes.
So tell me, what does your workout entail at Stone Mountain?
I actually, I had to slow it down because I hurt one of my knees. So I backed off, but I enjoy the run around the base. It's 5 miles.
Wow.
I hike up the mountain. I'll do that. There's another trail that I like to use down by the golf course. I go that way. I haven't played golf there yet, but I've been on the course.
Are you a golfer?
I'm just learning how to play. I want to really get into it. I know it seems to be really peaceful. So
we should play. So I'm horrible. I went to Top Golf the other night, and I couldn't hit. I was lucky that I didn't hit the guy next to me. I'm that bad. But I love the beauty of being outdoors, and so that's why I do like it. So anyway, we should do an event at Stone Mountain.
Oh, that would be great.
We should actually do an event and have to climb the mountain. So
that would be great too.
I love to exercise. Maybe we could do something climbing for justice, or climbing.
That would be good.
Climbing for. Yeah, we could do a number of things.
Yes,
we're gonna have to talk.
I like that.
We're gonna have to talk.
I like that.
And those of you folks who are not familiar with Stone Mountain, there is a walk path from the bottom to the top, so you can actually walk and climb up Stone Mountain, and it is a workout.
Yes, it is.
I've run up Stone Mountain. I couldn't do it today.
I
could not do it today. This was the younger me. But I still love to go and climb.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, since you do that, so you're into staying fit or working out.
Yeah.
That's why you look so young.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
It works. No, that's great, because when we have you as sheriff, we need a fit sheriff out there.
Yes.
Set the example.
Yes.
Now, and see, that leads me to further our discussion. When you're not just talking the talk.
Right.
You want to lead by example, which I am sure is another Marine trait.
Yes.
But you do learn. You do learn in military, and not just military, other places too. But you do learn to live by example.
Right.
And I'm sure you did it for your kids. I mean, my gosh, your son is a physicist.
Medical physicist.
A medical physicist. Your daughter's a biologist, and then your other daughter is in law enforcement.
And my youngest son is working on his degree, some computer or something he does. Wow. I can't even.
Anything with IT, he's set. He is set. So clearly you've led by example.
Sure.
I bet you were probably a parent like my parents. You know, my parents. I mean, you can look at me. I have been all of 5'3" and that's if I'm wearing the right shoes. And my parents always told me. I can hear my father all the time. He would tell me. He goes, Victor. Well, he would call me other things too, but he would tell me. He goes, look, life isn't always easy.
Right.
Yes, you may be brown, and you're short. And let me tell you, going through high school at 5'2", and then college, it isn't easy to be a dude and be this short. But I joke with people and tell them a lot that I didn't know I was short until I got to college.
Wow.
Because my father always said, if something's going to slow you down, it will be you. If you don't achieve something, it'll be you.
Right.
Whether it is, wow, that's a big bicycle. Whether you ride that bicycle or not is up to you. Right. No one can tell you no. No one can stop you or slow you down other than yourself. That's the first thing he really taught me throughout my life. And I've carried that with me. And it sounds like, clearly with the success of your children, that you've probably told them your biggest impediment will be yourself.
Right.
And the other thing that I learned a long time ago, and this was the help of my dad and my mom, is not allowing me to be a victim.
Right.
Not allowing me to be a victim. Probably. And I can't stress that enough. So maybe from your perspective, how do you view that? Because we have such a victim mentality out there in the country. I was always taught, don't be a victim. There's bad things that are going to happen. There are bad people, and there are going to be bad things that happen. But if you don't be a victim, then you're going to overcome. So speak to me on that.
Now, I'm based on what you just said, but when you say don't be a victim, like with my kids, me and my husband were both Marines, so nobody was a victim.
Oh, man,
it would have been hard pretty hard to survive in our house as a victim.
As a victim.
Because that would go away real fast. Sometimes circumstances from when people were children cause them to have inherently be victims because they were victimized at such a young age. They can't. But for the people who don't have that, and I'm not going to say excuse, that circumstance to make them victims. I agree wholeheartedly with what your father said. Don't be a victim. Everyone needs to stand, and one of the things I always say is you need to stand flat on your own 2 feet and have at it. Wow. There's, America is great. And it's just one of those places where if you stand and you assert yourself and you go for what you want, 9 times out of 10 you will achieve your goal. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be roadblocks in your way. There'll be people who try to stop you for their own selfish reasons.
Exactly.
But ignore them, like as your dad said, and just keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Yeah. What he always, what I learned so much from my family, and it's, and from, so I also studied under Japanese martial arts school for years, and that, I can't tell you the confidence that gave me. Wow, but learning that that Japanese way, that Eastern philosophy, but just like my father instilled in me, and what that school instilled in me, was there are going to be tribulations. There's going to be roadblocks, as you say, and there's going to be people who just out of selfish reasons will want to pull you down because they want to pull them down with them. We just can't allow that.
Right.
And you don't let that chip sit on the shoulder.
Right.
Forgiveness.
Right.
You got to knock the chip off. You got to have forgiveness, and you got to move forward.
That's true.
And that's how you make a better life. And that's why I think America's great as well, like you mentioned. So, okay, we've got about 30 seconds or so. Ruth, give us 30 seconds of why we need to vote for Ruth and where they can find you. How can they help?
Okay. I am Ruth the Truth Stringer, and I'm running for Sheriff of Dekalb County because I want to bring transparency, transformation, and truth. It is necessary in these times. The truth is paramount. We must have that. You can reach me by going to stringerforsheriff.com. Stringer for Sheriff, FOR is spelled out. If you want to cash at me, that would be great. Stringer 2020. And how can you help me? I am running against the machine right now, an established machine, and I would appreciate any support you can give me financially. That would be great. But just know that the best thing you can do, citizens of DeKalb County, is get out and vote. I want you to vote.
For Ruth the Truth. Oh, awesome.
Ruth the Truth.
Thank you so much for being my guest. I'm going to have you back.
Well, thank you.
And we will talk some more. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. Locked and Loaded with Roger B. is up next.
If your health insurance premium